Hi, my name's Steven. I'm the little brother.
My name's Kevin. I'm the middle brother.
My name's David. I'm the biggest of all the brothers.
This is the Brothers Born podcast. The three of us don't see each other very often, so we decided that this is how we're going to hang out. We hope that y'all like listening. All right, talk to you soon. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Brothers Born podcast. Well, we're changing things up a little bit today. We're going to, compared to what we've been doing with the mashups and the crazy storytelling, now we're going to do something where we just talk about villains. From the mashup series, we kind of got an idea of talking about villains that are actually good guys. And we got some submissions. Thank you, listeners, for participating with us today. And we'll get right into it. The first one comes from a friend of mine named Billy Fox. So thank you, Billy, for your submission. And he wants us to talk about Dr. Victor Freeze.
Oh, that's a good one.
Now, wait, hold on. These aren't villains that are actually good. It's villains that think they're good, I thought.
No, it's villains that actually are good.
And we got, there's kind of a mixed bag from what we got submitted. There's some that are bad that become good. I figure we can kind of just discuss them. But our main focus is ones that, I guess, villains that are justified in how they're in their villainy.
I thought it was ones that thought they were good. So some of my requests last night were probably not so good. But anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
So Dr. Victor Freeze. What do we know about Dr. Victor Freeze?
So Mr. Freeze from Batman. So his whole deal, isn't it, that he's his wife's dying from a disease of some sort, and so he freezes her so he can revive her later. And his whole motivation is just trying to fund his research and ability in things so that he can revive his wife and live life with her again.
And then tragedy occurs, as I understand it.
Yeah, because during his research, he accidentally gives himself the powers that he has.
From what I understand, she died in the experiment. He's a cryogenic scientist, so he's all into cryogenics and freezing and stuff. And then he gets injured during whatever it is, and he has, in order to stay alive, he has to wear this cryogenic suit. And is that
because he was exposed to the cold too much? So now he always has to have it on.
So his wife's dead. He's stuck in this dorky looking suit, and I could see why he's a little upset,
Plus, he got teamed up with Poison Ivy in the movie, and that's just
we're not going to talk about that. but I would agree that in a way he's a good guy, because he's not. I mean, maybe his Mings, he's robbing banks and stuff, but he's not being purposefully malicious. He's just trying to revive his wife and fix this problem that he has.
But once he gets into trouble, then he starts to freeze everybody, though. So to try to fix his actions, or to make sure he can, he starts to he's so worried about his wife, which is justifiable, but then he doesn't really realize the stuff he's doing to other people, freezing other people and
the ramifications.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's just freezing them. It's not like he's exploding their heads or something.
Dude, the Victor Freeze in Gotham is the most recent one I've seen, and that guy tore people up with his freezing stuff, man.
You freeze them, then smash them to bits and pieces,
man.
Like the guy from Demolition Man.
But I'll have to admit, the original motivation, you kind of feel bad for him. He just wants to have his family back. So
the next one we got comes from Emma Franks Nunez, and she said Megamind. Now, have any of you seen the show Megamind?
I have not, but
Neither
let's see if we
can.
Will Ferrell does one of the voices in it.
I read about it yesterday. Basically, this guy, he's a supervillain. Brad Pitt is actually in this movie, Kevin. I know you like Brad Pitt. Well, he's a cartoon. He has a voice in this one. So he's the hero, a superhero in this town, and Megamind's the villain. And I guess
it Will Ferrell?
Yeah, Will Ferrell, I think.
Okay. All right, gotcha.
And he, from what I read, he defeats Brad Pitt's superhero character, and he's so upset that he's bored now. He's like, oh, my nemesis is gone. So he tries to create another superhero just so he has an enemy, someone to kind of battle with, and it kind of backfires. And then that new hero becomes the bad guy. Then he has to kind of deal with him. And then you find out at the end, Brad Pitt, I guess, is his character. I don't remember his name, Captain something. But he he was alive. He was just in hiding because he was tired of being a superhero.
Well, it sounds like a fun one. I guess I don't know much about it, unfortunately, but it sounds
But
intriguing
so I think that what it came from is Megamind. He's a villain, but he's a villain just because he just has fun.
because he's bored.
Yeah, he's bored, and then when he creates an enemy, a good guy, the good guy becomes bad. So then he's forced to become the good guy and try and protect the
Interesting.
city. So I kind
That
of want
is
to watch this cartoon now. I saw a trailer for it, and I was like, oh yeah, maybe that's fun. But now I'm kind of curious.
yeah. So he kind of switches sides, like Kevin's boy Storm Shadow
Yeah, it goes back and forth. He's flip floppity like a pancake. He can't choose
or
what side of the
Loki.
fence.
Loki,
Yeah.
who's also on our list later, but yes. Okay.
So I don't know. It's worth watching now. I think since none of us have watched it, I say we each take time, sometime soon, and watch Megamind. And
I'll do what I can.
the two of you have children, so maybe your kids will like it. It's a cartoon, so
I don't think my kids have seen it.
You just mentioned Storm Shadow. I want to talk about him, but that's okay.
That's a good one. We'll come back to him. We'll circle back. The next one on our list, and this is a really good one. I'm really kind of excited to talk about this one, and it's not necessarily obvious, but I mean, this is one. When we first thought of this idea, I thought of him as well. My friend Jeff Anderson. Shout out to Jeff Anderson. Thank you, sir. He gave us 3 entries, actually. One of them is, the first one is Magneto from X-Men.
Because his whole thing is he wants equality for mutants and humans, right?
Yeah.
But he fights for the mutants, but he does it in a way, right, where he doesn't really take care of the humans or care about the humans like Professor X because he's so worried about equality for the mutants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But his motivation, I mean, so he was in Nazi Germany, as he's Jewish, and he was in a concentration camp, and his whole family is killed except for him. And so he's seen firsthand genocide and bigotry as someone who's in a concentration
an extreme
camp.
form of it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he's like, man, these humans are
Ethnic
rotten.
cleansing, is that what you call it? Like
Yeah.
when you get rid of an entire race of people or try
Yeah.
to?
And he's totally not down with that, and no one should be down with that. That's evil. But he takes it to the next level, and he kind of does it. He now feels that way about humans almost. He's trying to get rid of normal humans and just having a world for mutants. Now, I can't say he's right, but I understand where he's coming from. He's experienced the Holocaust, and he's like, I can see why you'd be bitter. And want to kind of.
I definitely agree that he's realistically kind of the good guy. Not that Professor X is the bad guy, obviously, because he wants everybody to have equality. But I definitely think he's up there as a contender.
Yeah, he's really interesting. I was reading about him yesterday, and go ahead, David.
It's like I was gonna say, it's like he really cares about Professor X, but he can't always agree with what Professor X thinks or does. So I mean, I don't know as X-Men as well as I know the MCU and Avengers, but I know the two of them they're friends, but then since they don't always see eye to eye, like I know it's hard on him to not get along with Professor X, but he really feels like he has to, make sure that he gets, I don't want to say revenge, I guess revenge, just to make sure he makes everything equal for the mutants and makes it fair for them. It's kind of like an ongoing battle he has within himself.
One of my favorite parts, I think it's the second or third movie, which the third X-Men movie is not that good, but I don't remember the Pyro, the guy with the fire, he flips the light.
Yeah.
He says something about how he's going to take out Professor X, and Magneto's like, Xavier has done more for mutants than anyone else, even though the Pyro's trying to show off, I'll take care of Professor X, because he used to be a student at the academy, and Magneto's like, no, he's not a problem. Sure, we don't always agree, but he helps us mutants. But the next one comes from Jeff Anderson as well. It's Prince Zuko. Now, I don't think either of you have watched.
You skipped Anakin? Or are you doing Anakin?
That's going to come. That's the third one, yes.
Oh, sorry.
I think I texted him in the wrong order.
That's okay. Either way.
The next one Jeff Anderson submitted was Zuko, Prince Zuko. I don't think either of you have watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, so I won't spend a lot of time on this one, but he's definitely a good contender. Basically, he's an exiled prince from this evil Fire Lord kingdom, Fire Kingdom, and he's just trying to make peace with his homeland. His dad is the emperor, and he exiles him. So he tries to do bad things just to show his dad, hey, I'm serious, I'm still loyal to you, even though his dad kicked him out of his own country. So even though he does bad things, he's trying to find the Avatar and kidnap him or whatever. But as an exiled prince, he's just trying to make right with his dad, and I totally understand why he might be
So
justified in his decisions.
his
But
dad is he does these bad things to show off for his dad. Is his dad
his
not?
dad's his dad's an evil emperor, and he
Okay,
like
gotcha.
and he's getting ready to do something bad, and Prince Zuko's like, don't, like, he's getting ready to, like, I don't know, attack a kingdom or something, and Prince Zuko says, don't do that, and then they have a little duel, and then he loses the duel, so the emperor exiles him, and then
Gotcha.
the whole first 2.5 seasons of the show, he's trying to like make peace with that and kind of um, make amends with his dad and make it back to the Fire Kingdom. But he ends up being a really good guy in the end. He kind of fights back, and it's cool. And it's a really good show. I recommend it. But I won't spend too much time, obviously, because you guys haven't watched it yet. The next one, Anakin Skywalker. This could be a whole episode, honestly. Kevin and I always joke about how Star Wars, we can have a whole Star Wars podcast, and it would be endless material. But this surface level Anakin Skywalker, what do we have to say about him?
This one's kind of odd because he's a good guy, but turns bad, but then turns back good. His motivation isn't bad. His whole thing is I want to bring peace to the galaxy. Of course, he gets corrupted by the dark side, but his initial motivation isn't a bad thing. Darth Vader is a pretty bad dude, though.
Yeah, sure.
Well, again, like you have to take into account it's just a gradual. Like Darth Vader didn't just come out of nowhere. It just shows how when Anakin was putting his priorities in the wrong spot, like he wanted, gradually the Force was influencing him, and then before you know it, like Darth Vader's there, and it's weird because Anakin's the chosen one, as Obi-Wan said, you were the chosen one. And what was that? The third one?
Revenge of the Sith?
Whatever the prequel is, but you were the chosen one. And he, like, by that, like, that's what he felt. And then, I don't know, he goes from the chosen one to, like, the one who's supposed to be in charge of the Empire, who Emperor Palpatine, is his apprentice or whatever. He's Emperor, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he goes from like one direction to the other, and then finally finds his way back. So I don't know. It's just interesting. He's extreme on both sides, but
his motivation is definitely, I would consider not a bad thing. He's just trying to stop people from he wants to stop people from dying, which I guess
that's why he kills all the younglings.
Yeah, exactly. Well, all except for one, apparently, as we learned from Mandalorian. But yeah, his character develops a lot more in the Clone Wars cartoon. I know you guys haven't really seen that, but you kind of see.
I'm working on it.
It's cool because you kind of see when he's a Jedi and actually doing good things, but he's sort of questionable, but not like in an evil way.
Yeah, just a little against the grain.
Yeah, like Qui-Gon.
Yeah, and I think
Qui-Gon never let the Dark Force take him over. But Qui-Gon, though, was so obsessed with finding the chosen one that maybe he didn't do enough research on Anakin. I don't know. Like, he probably saw this kid. Maybe he didn't, like, he wanted him to be the chosen one so bad that maybe he was tainted in what he thought of him, or he didn't see the whole picture.
I've
been hearing you talk about midichlorians. What are midichlorians?
I was just about to look up the name of that thing, but I couldn't remember the word midichlorians. I got to see you're talking, like I can look it up. But
I don't know the prequels well enough anymore.
Interesting about Anakin, though. I mean, and Kevin, this is another thing we could spend a whole episode on probably. But the dark side of the Force isn't necessarily evil. It's a matter of using it improperly. Is that? I mean,
yeah. So see, I've always made the argument that dark side of the Force is not necessarily evil in and of itself, because it's just the big difference is it's more emotionally based. Let's talk about giving into your hate and things like that. It's just people who use the dark side of the Force are just very passionate. The problem is that often they turn that passion into something bad.
Well, like they always say, they always talk about finding balance in the Force.
Yeah,
so it's
exactly.
Not saying one way is totally bad and one way is good. You just got to find what's good on both sides or whatever.
And what I think is interesting, and you can do a whole episode on this, but I'll touch on it quickly, is, in the Revenge of the Sith, at one point, Anakin tells Obi-Wan, he's like, well, from my point of view, it's the Jedi that are evil. And it's kind of a unique when you really think about it, in some ways he could be right in the count that they're so disattached, and their motivations aren't necessarily the best. And the Clone Wars cartoon kind of gets into that a little bit too. One of my favorite characters, Ahsoka Tano, kind of goes through this whole thing where she's like not really sure if Jedi Order is necessarily what it's all cracked up to be.
Yeah.
But anyway,
so that's a good one.
Again, that could be, we do episodes for days on Star Wars.
We should just have a Star Wars podcast aside from ours. And yeah, all right. The next one I wanted to, a friend of mine, Matt Hintz, he said Spider-Man 2's version of Dr. Octopus. And I know I've seen this movie. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I read about it. I just kind of looked up and refreshed myself a little bit. And I think it's a good one. I forgot about him, but he has these like octopus arms on his back, as you know, Dr. Octopus, for a demonstration for like, oh, look at this cool AI. And some crazy accident happens and they become fused to his neural system. Because, that can happen totally.
Well, I mean, we're talking about the same universe where you get bit by a spider, you get spider powers.
Not to interrupt, I don't mean to digress here, but if you look at Spider-Man, all of his villains are kind of like this. Yeah. They're good, and then like not Magneto, the electric dude.
Oh yeah, Electro, right?
Jamie Foxx plays him.
I think his name is Electro.
And then even the Vulture, Michael Keaton, the Vulture. And then even the newest one, who I can't think of, that's on Far Away From Home, was
Mysterio.
Yeah, it seems like all the villains in Spider-Man, at least a lot of them, are kind of like this. Like they just have some accident or something.
In the movies for sure. Or even like Spider-Man 3, which I don't really want to talk about because it's a terrible movie. But you have was it Sandman?
Oh yeah, that dude.
Yeah, in the movie, here's another one. Venom, not so much, but which is kind of funny because in that movie, Venom is purely not. His motivation isn't good, but if you read like comics and stuff, it's not really bad.
Venom's more of an anti-hero than it.
Yeah.
But sorry, you can go back to Doc Ock. I just noticed that. Like a lot of the villains are like that.
I think that's kind of cool at Spider-Man. The villains are just real people. Circumstances have led them to bad actions, sure, but they're more relatable, I guess, to a certain degree. But yeah, Doc Ock is the one from Spider-Man 2. His family also gets killed in this accident, and he's just trying to. It kind of almost like a.
Plus, if I remember right, he's not necessarily the one that's evil. It's the AI of the arms that makes him do bad things.
Yes.
Sorry, that's a little bit funny too, but.
But I mean, Spider-Man 2 is I think underrated.
I don't want to be bad. My arms are making me that way.
And but that's a good one. I think it's one I didn't think about for sure. So the next one's from a friend of mine named Brandon Welch. He says Loki, MCU, and this one's really interesting because I feel like Loki, he's good at heart. He's the god of mischief. So he likes to stir the pot a lot, I think, is what is going on.
Like you got to think about his background too. I mean, he thought he was something different than he was his whole life, and his brother was he tried to be good for Odin, but his brother always outshined him. His brother was the chosen one, whatever.
I know you guys can relate to that.
I know.
And even throughout everything he does, he still has like an affection or he doesn't want to do anything to hurt his brother too bad. Like Thor, he always seems like he does what he can to help Thor out and to save Thor.
His mom, when his mom dies, he's absolutely livid. Like he is not down with that. Like I don't think he really cared about Odin that much, but when the
Now, interesting enough, if you know anything about Nordic mythology, where Loki comes from, even like the Nordic version, he's the god of mischief. That's all it is. He's not. I wouldn't say he's necessarily evil, although he does kill Baldur. But anyways, I'm getting into a whole thing there.
But I think Loki's a good candidate for sure. I can relate to him, and I think at the core he's a good dude.
Because I'm better, that's why you can relate to him.
Does that mean I'm like the older sister that destroys everything?
You're Hela, the goddess of death. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's another one that you could you could take a lot of time on too, and just like even when in Ragnarok, how he doesn't want to team up with Thor, but he does, and then at the end in Endgame, which I didn't think he actually was killed until
I'm
now,
still
I think,
skeptical, honestly, but
but
we'll
he
see.
like he totally like sacrifices himself to help out, to try to get his brother saved, and Hulk is there at the time, and so I mean he ends up being a good dude, but I think
And
he'll always be mischievous, like because he's the god of mischief. Even when you go back to Endgame, like they left it off where the past version of him or whatever is still around causing mischief.
yeah,
So
and you also can't get too upset with him for doing evil things. I mean, look at his dorky helmet. I mean, like if I had to wear something like that, I don't know that I'd always be doing good things.
yeah, but he ditched that after a while. But you're right. You're right.
All right, the next one, Dave. I want you to talk about this one, Vegeta.
Is that like carrots or celery or what?
I'm
All I
just
know
kidding.
about Dragon Ball Z is when I used to watch it with you guys a couple times, they would do a half an hour episode where all it was grunting back and forth. And then it would be a commercial break. Then they'd come back and do it again. I don't know much about Vegeta except that he was like the villain, right? And fought against.
Well, he originally he was a villain. He started off as a villain, but then he was part of the crew.
My favorite person from that show was Piccolo, just because I thought he was cool looking and his name is musical. So
So
He's also a villain initially, but he becomes good. But we'll talk about him later. But Vegeta,
oh, that's true. Yeah, he is. Yeah, Piccolo's a good one too. No, but Vegeta, like so. To start off, like he's kind of interesting because he goes down to destroy. He's trying to find Goku or Kakarot.
Isn't
To
that
I
funny?
guess
All right, listen, hold on, just like Kakarot kind of sounds like carrot. And the Vegeta,
yes.
David just made a vegetable joke about Vegeta. All right, sorry, go ahead, continue.
So, but
Piccolo's like pickle,
he's
but
so Vegeta's the last member of royalty of his race. So there's not a whole lot of Saiyans left in the universe. And he's doing like these bad things because he wants to become immortal. But the thing is, like, he wants to destroy Frieza, who's the one who destroyed his planet to begin with. So I guess I would say that he kind of is his motivations are both good and bad.
Yeah,
Because initially he's a lot of it's he's just trying to compete with Goku and become better than him, which is sort of selfish. But when it comes to Frieza, this guy who destroyed and basically committed genocide on the Saiyans and basically enslaved those who were left over to serve him, he's trying to break out of that. So, I would argue Vegeta's good, though some of his, he kills a lot of people. So,
but he's also, I mean, you and I talked about this when you look at him compared to Goku. Sure, Goku's a more powerful Saiyan, but Vegeta is a way better dad.
oh yeah, yes, he is definitely a better father than Goku is.
So
Even though he clearly doesn't want his son when he first has him, he, he eventually he kind of gets into it, and he likes, he saves Earth and joins them, and
sounds like a good dude to me.
well, he also kills a lot of people, like a lot of people.
But I didn't. That one came from Shane Hickson, another friend of mine. So thank you, Shane. He also said Prince Zuko, so I had to bring Prince Zuko in here, even though because two people requested him, so that's why I had to talk about him briefly. But and the next one is from a friend of mine, Zion Muli Talo, and he said Eric Killmonger, and this is actually interesting because I was reading about him yesterday, and the actor that plays Eric Killmonger,
I love that dude.
Michael B. Jordan. He's
Sexiest
actually
man alive in People this year. But go ahead.
I can't disagree. I mean,
People magazine voted him that. But go ahead.
He his favorite Dragon Ball Z character is Vegeta. I looked that up yesterday. So cool. So Eric Killmonger, or
I know a little bit more about at least the movie version of him.
Yeah, and when I was looking it up, I think I actually like the movie version of this character better. Of course, I never read the comic books with him in it, but I think the one in the movies are more interesting. But yeah, what do we think about him? I think
my thing is, he got it. He was just a victim of circumstance again, right? Like,
yeah,
he his dad was killed by King T'Challa's dad, which whatever
T'Chaka.
Black Panther's dad. His dad was killed by
King
Black
T'Chaka.
Panther's dad. And like that's just a not a good thing to happen, right? So and the thing with like he goes, it seems to me like he's in the military, right? So he initially wants to do good, or at least he fights for our country, yeah. So he at least gets trained to do good.
Well,
He kills
I
a
can
lot of
tell you
people
from
too.
I can tell you from personal experience. Not everyone in the military is there to fight for the country.
I guess that's true. But he just yeah, you're right. But he just really wants to he's had this rough life, like he's grown up in the ghetto, he hasn't had anything, and he realizes he should have had a lot more than he did. And so he could have been a good dude, but he
I, I think what I find most interesting about him, at least from the movie version, is part of this whole thing is he wants Wakanda to share its technology so that
yeah,
everybody, including those people living in the ghetto and stuff like he grew up, could have a better life, and
right.
Wakanda just
At least
holds on
people
to it.
right.
So, what he wants is really would be beneficial to the world, not just not just some selfish thing that he's going through.
And I mean, putting it from that point, it kind of makes Wakanda the bad guy because they have all these resources and they're not
At
sharing
least at least T'Challa's dad for sure, like the Black Panther's dad.
it. T'Chaka. I love their
Yeah.
names. Their
The
names are
Black
so fun.
Panther, he was too young when it happened, where I don't think his motivation, he just is doing what he was told to do,
Yeah,
protecting the
true, true.
vibranium. So I don't think he means to be an enemy to Eric Killmonger, because he doesn't even really know he exists, right, for a long
Yeah.
time. So the problem here is the Black Panther's father, who I still don't know his name, but
Uh, so
T'Chaka,
yeah,
Kachaka,
T'Chaka.
Munchaka, whatever it is.
Um,
But
and yes, I think of all the MCU villains, I think he actually might be my favorite one. I really like Eric Killmonger. Uh, so
yeah, he's a good one. I do like Thanos, which I think would be a good addition to this list too. But I know he's another one like Anakin that you could probably spend a whole episode on too.
so the next one, this is the last submission we had, also came from Shane Hickson. He posted it later, and this is Professor Severus Snape. Now this one, he's never really bad
He's
ever.
not. Yeah, he's never really a bad guy.
He's
looks
perceived
bad.
But he is
he's
perceived as one,
perceived as bad.
and he was at one point in time because he did join the Death Eaters.
That's true. That's true.
But
But
he wasn't when Harry Potter first started going to Hogwarts, right?
no,
Right.
he's all good, and like he's actually one of the. You could argue he's like the main hero of the Harry Potter series to a certain degree, because like none of that stuff could have happened if Snape wouldn't have like played both sides of the coin.
Harry Potter kind of focuses on Dumbledore and Harry being like the two main heroes, but in actuality, I would argue that it's Snape and Neville.
Yeah, dude, like Snape and Neville both are underrated, and I think they're really powerful, and like the things they accomplish in the Harry Potter world are pretty amazing. And like Harry and Dumbledore could not have accomplished what they accomplished without the help of Snape and Neville and
Yeah, but
several others.
Hagrid is still my favorite because he's awesome.
But Snape is good. Like honestly, when I was reading the books as a kid, in the beginning when I first started reading, I'm like, oh no, he's good. He's just putting on a front and he's just grouchy. And then like the scene where he actually kills Dumbledore in the book, I'm like, oh crap, maybe he is bad. Like it mystified me when I was younger, and then it turns out it was all planned. But it's he's a good one for sure, and I like him because he kind of goes back. The actor that plays Snape goes back to like our third episode with
That's true.
what's his name?
Hans
I think
Gruber.
Snape is probably faculty-wise. Snape is my favorite character in Harry Potter. Student-wise is Luna, but always liked Snape, even from like the first book.
He's interesting. But
so
Hans Gruber, we mentioned Hans Gruber. He's not.
no, he was pure villain. Pure villain.
He's strictly a villain.
The only thing he was good to, he wanted to be good to, was his bank account. So, but should we do a quick fire on some of our other ideas and then maybe revisit them next time? Then, since I see our time's running out.
I definitely want to do another episode.
Let me give you some of mine real quick. I think. What do you think about the Giant and Jack and the Beanstalk?
I never thought of
that's
that.
actually, I didn't
Jack
think about
is
that.
a jerk to him, man.
Yeah, he is kind of a jerk. He's going there stealing his stuff.
The Giant is good. Like, he has a golden egg. He takes care of his chicken. He's just minding his own business. And same thing with the three bears and Goldilocks. Like, Goldilocks comes and
That's
eats
true
all their
too.
stuff.
They're just
So
like
fairy tales
living their life.
Goldilocks is a home invader, so
Seriously, the bears just want to. They're
and she's
worried.
like she's stealing their stuff. Yeah, you're right.
Right. Those are those are two I thought of. And then the Toy Story villains, what is it? Lotso Hugs and Kisses or whatever
Yeah,
his name
lots of
is.
hugs.
He feels bad because he was deceived by it. He thinks his child abandoned him, and now all he wants to do is save the other toys and protect them. But he's portrayed as this like he evil dude. And same with the guy in Toy Story 2, Stinky Pete. Like he wants him and his friends to be safe in Tokyo Museum, not harmed, to be taken care of their whole life. Like so he wants what's good. He doesn't always, treat Woody the right way because he's overzealous in what he wants. But those are just four fun ones I thought of.
Yeah, for sure. I don't disagree. Like those are
And then
good examples.
I thought of Thanos, and like there's a whole bunch of them. I could go on and
Yeah.
on.
I definitely think we should readdress this in our next episode. Talk
Agreed.
about a few other ones. One that we mentioned earlier was, since we're all somewhat familiar with him, is Storm Shadow.
Oh yeah.
Definitely, I would say he's for the most part a good guy the entire time. It doesn't appear that way. Because his uncle's killed and he's blamed for it, even though it wasn't his fault. And so he infiltrates Cobra to find out who the real assassin is. And of course, if he's going to get in Cobra's higher chain of command, he has to prove himself. So he does, some questionable things. But
because of his work, doesn't he provide some intel to the Joes a lot of the time?
Eventually, and eventually he joins the Joes again. He leaves Cobra and joins G.I. Joe because he doesn't find any honor in what Cobra is doing.
Yeah.
He's just trying to figure out, who's responsible for framing him and killing his uncle. Of course, eventually it goes back to Cobra because they brainwash him. But he's by far the most interesting character in the whole G.I. Joe franchise.
Televiper was pretty sweet. He had a cool hat. I'm just kidding.
Another one, kind of going back to the cartoons, is Syndrome from The Incredibles.
That's a really good one.
He got dissed on by the heroes. And
what about Gaston? Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's I don't have much to say about
Gaston
Syndrome,
from Beauty and the Beast.
No,
he's protecting people from this beast.
And the Beast is kind of evil in a way. I mean, he's like keeping this girl in his castle.
Yeah, he kidnaps a girl, keeps her in there. The whole reason why he's there to get a beast to begin with is because he's just like he doesn't care about the poor and things like that. And he's definitely the only reason he wants Belle to get interested in him so he can stop being a beast. Dude, he's a selfish punk.
That's true. That's a good point.
But and, you're right about Syndrome. Like his whole thing is, he makes these inventions so everybody gets superpowers, and then of course, as when everybody's super, nobody is. He's definitely on, pretty up there as far as his motivations are.
And he started out as an admirer of the superheroes too, and then they kind of turned their back on him, right? Like they treated him like garbage.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happened with, is it Electro? He was a really big admirer of Spider-Man for a while.
In the movies. Yeah.
What about, I know you have one you want to get to, Kevin, too, but Steven came up with a good one, I thought. The principal from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, yeah, no, he is definitely the good guy.
And also,
he's just doing his job.
Well, he does break into their house, to be fair. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that is true. But, you got feel for that dude because, let's face it, kids are annoying, right? And, he knows that there's, these Ferris Bueller is just being a punk and wasting people's time and stuff.
Right.
Principal's not a bad dude. Although he does kind of go to extremes when Ferris's own mother basically excused him from school. So legally speaking, you really shouldn't be doing all that. But
David, speaking from an educator's perspective, as you are a teacher, how do you relate to this man? Have you seen this in your own work?
Well, I mean, I'm not a principal right now, but I mean, you can see the kids when they're trying to get away with something, and you just it's like Kevin said, kids are just kind of annoying sometimes, but for some reason I decided to revolve my whole career around them. But
at least you're working with little kids, you're not working with punk teenagers as much. So.
It's just they're always trying to get away with stuff, and they always you can't nowadays. You can't really, the kids are pretty much, you can't really do much to. It's not like it used to be. So the kids pretty much can run the show, and sometimes you just want it to be. You want them to be where they're supposed to be, so you can teach them. Which I'm sure that's what the principal wanted. He wanted Ferris Bueller to have his education, right?
Yeah.
Kevin wanted to get into the Matrix robots too, right?
I'll get into that next time.
Okay. All
All
right.
right, so we'll
I
have a
got a
couple
whole thing with that.
All right. Till next time.
next time.
Thank you for listening to this villainous episode of the Brothers Born podcast. I want to thank those of you that submitted some villains to us. Without you, the episode wouldn't have been nearly as interesting. Also want to take a moment to thank the artists that let us borrow their work for the episode art this week. Claudia Caranfa for her image of Eric Killmonger. Check out more of her work on facebook.com/KitRose, KITTROSE. Daniel Chavez for his image of Magneto. Check out more of his work on Instagram, Daniel_M_Chavez. Johnny Monstar for his image of Darth Vader. Check out more of his work on Instagram or Facebook, Johnny Monstar, JONNYMONSTAR. We're coming up on the end of the year now. We're probably only going to have maybe one more episode left this year. This thing's really grown since we started it, and we're excited to see what happens in 2021, so keep listening, tell your friends, and stay tuned to the Brothers Born podcast.